so much for coming out for today's event. My name is Craig Sherman. I'm the CEO of Omega HR, and it's our honor to be the premier sponsor for today's event. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Maria Solomianos. I'm the president of Omega HR. Before I start down to business, it's Mother's Day this weekend. I know all of you remembered. So all of you, I'm sure, put your business card in the jar at the entrance. My sister's jewelry donated a triple strand freshwater pearl necklace. So at the end of the event, we're going to pull a name of a lucky winner, and they're going to have the necklace. So the person I get the honor to introduce the stage truly needs no introduction. Not only do I consider him a dear friend, but we're hugely fortunate to have him as our county executive. Let's give Mark Hackle a great big warm welcome. My line is not working.
Thank you for that welcome. Absolutely. You bet. Thank you, Greg. That's right, we're on a tight schedule, so we're changing this a little bit. My bad. So it's interesting. This has been going on for several years now, and I'm fortunate because I get the opportunity to introduce the governor of the state of Michigan. Not many people get that opportunity, one that I don't take lightly. I think it's unique, especially as a kid growing up here in Macomb County, born and raised here. Never did I think as a kid, I'd be in a situation where you're actually introducing a governor. I didn't even know what a governor was, okay? But quite honestly, I'm a county executive, and I don't even know what that is still, all right? Still trying to figure that one out. But I want to thank all of you for being here, and Mac and Ray and the staff for putting this on. You've done it quite often, and a round of applause for Mac and Ray and the staff here. I was fortunate earlier today. I was in Oakland County bragging about Macomb County. Love to do that, especially when Brooks Patterson isn't there. But it is more special when he's there and he's just listening and doesn't have a microphone. But I also got to go to RCO, one of the manufacturing facilities here in Macomb County, and have a quick little panel discussion about some of the things that are going on, the incredible things that are happening here in Macomb County manufacturing with the governor and his Marshall Plan that we have embraced already here in Macomb County, and sat on a panel and listened to him talk. But knowing that we were coming here again today and knowing that this was scheduled, just briefly in the back talking to the governor, I asked him that question. I says, how many of these have you put on your calendar every year, events where you've gone to a particular county or community where you've gone every year, and kind of a repeat, I guess, appearance for something special. And he said there's only two other places that he has gone to, and actually shown up. One is the Tulip Festival, and the other one is somewhere in Cadillac that he's been. But I thought it was remarkable. If you think about it, the governor of the state of Michigan has come here every time when asked or requested by our chambers to speak to this audience or to this venue, and has done an incredible job. So I'm honored by the fact that he is willing to do that and have that commitment, because I got to believe his schedule is just absolutely incredible. I know that mine can be from time to time, but being the governor of the state of Michigan has got to be a unique challenge. I just want to take a quick moment, because it was the first time I had ever been to an event like this, but I'm sure it wasn't an event that was unique to him, because he is a nerd and I'm not. But I might become one, and I actually felt like a nerd at a particular event that took place at Kobo. It was his first robotics, I guess, event, and a world championship that was taking place, and I know you were there. I think I left when you finally got there, but we had a few teams from Macomb County, 5 high school teams and 1 middle school team that were actually in the Worlds. They were actually in this competition. And it was we call them the chickens here. I think it was the Thunder Chickens and was it the Blue Devils, if it was it? The Blue Devils and the Thunder Chickens were still in this event, and they were competing for first place in the Worlds. And I'm watching this stuff, and I'm actually up in the stands, and if you'd never been to an event like this, and I never was, I mean, I was getting excited. I was all pumped up. I was actually part of the fan base. I actually started to understand exactly how the point system worked and how they were actually winning points. And with that being said, here in Macomb County, our Thunder Chickens and our Blue Devils became second in the world. Second in the world. That was very exciting, and no, I'm not going to tell you who was first, because it don't matter. So With that being said, I just want to thank the governor once again for being here. He's been a committed partner to working with us on some of the major issues that are going on, some of the issues dealing with manufacturing. I know roads is still a concern and one that he has owned since day one and has been committed to try to figure out how to solve this problem. It's still lingering. It's still there. I got to believe at some point in time we will get there. We'll try to figure out how do we solve that problem, and it's a funding issue. But I know this governor was one that really was committed to it because I was at his very first State of the State address. And I remember him talking about it and trying to figure out how do we resolve that issue. So credit to him for at least trying to get out there. But you know what? I got to tell you, it goes beyond just those political relationships you have. I think from day one, he and I had a connection. And it wasn't about partisan aspects. It wasn't about anything about what he could do for me, what I could do for him to make either one of us look better. It's how do we solve problems within our community. And mine was how do we resolve issues, particularly here in Macomb County, but also what added value can I add to help with the solutions, whether it's a regional and or statewide solution. So the door has always been open, not just between him and I, but our staffs at the state level. And so with that, I can't thank him enough for the relationship, both on a personal level as well as a professional level, and setting aside the partisan differences to try to solve problems here in Macomb County. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to introduce once again the governor of the great state of Michigan, Governor Rick Snyder. Governor.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you. Thank you for that wonderful introduction and this warm welcome. It's great to be back again. This is a special place. I look forward to this event each and every year. This is my last year. So it's with some remorse, but I'm excited to be back with you to share some thoughts. And I do want to say, before I get into other comments, thank you for rearranging, for coming earlier. Normally you don't see me in a tie. The reason we asked if you could accommodate this and the dress today is we lost Brian Whiston this last week, our state school superintendent, and I'm going to his funeral immediately after this. And I have to tell you, Brian is a real loss for us. He was an outstanding superintendent. He actually didn't work for me. But I can tell you, we had a partnership where we never had a disagreement on anything because it was all about the kids of Michigan. So I ask you to keep his family in your thoughts and prayers, and we'll keep his legacy alive with things like the Marshall Plan, who he is a big backer of and helped put it together. So thanks for changing your schedules to be here. The other group I'd like to recognize before I make some comments are our military. If you could all stand up and we could give you a round of applause for your outstanding service. One of the opportunities and true honors of being a governor is you actually get to be commander-in-chief of the Guard. And one of the things I'm proudest of is being commander-in-chief of this outstanding National Guard we have here. And you've got an Air Guard here in particular that's won the highest awards in our country for outstanding service. So we should be really proud here in Michigan for the great people that are not only keeping our country safe, but doing outstanding service as citizen soldiers for all of us. So thank you for your great service. Now, what about Michigan? A few things I would share, but I'm going to spend very little on the past. I want to talk about the future. In terms of the past, a few quick stats I would share with you is Michigan is back. For years, you've probably heard me talk about the comeback state. To be blunt, we should drop that terminology. We're just back. And the question is how do you go from, we've already gone from 50 out of 50 to top 10. Well, to be blunt, that's not good enough. How do we get to number 1? That's the things I want to share, but just to put it in perspective, to measure the top 10. So in the last 7 years, we've created over 540,000 private sector jobs. That ranks us number 6 in the nation, number 1 in the Great Lakes states. In terms of per capita income increases, we rank number 6 in the nation, number 1 in the Great Lakes states. In terms of manufacturing job creation, we rank number 1 in the nation. In terms of net inbound bachelor's degrees of kids going in and out of our state, we rank number 1 in the Great Lakes states after lagging that for years. We're fortunate enough to have a city now recognized as the best comeback city in our country after 50 years of decline and struggle. We've got Detroit on a roll. We've got other communities on a roll. This is an outstanding community. You should be so proud of your county in terms of economic development, but people development, and the wonderful things going on. When I became governor, the unemployment rate was 13%. It's a little over 4, and you're better than the state average, and you should be proud. You've got great leadership here with Mark and a great team of people. Let's give them a round of applause. Now let me talk about Michigan's future. I'm going to run through the tape. I work in dog years. I'm not going to slow down through the last day. I've had people come up and say, well, what difference is it going to make? I can tell you on December 31st of 2018, I may not be able to change someone's life in 2018, but I can change someone's life in 2020 or 2025 and make Michigan a better place. That's not an opportunity to be wasted. It's been an honor each and every day to be your governor. So I'm focused on several things, but what I want to share with you is the things I'm going to share with you are things that need to keep going. As I said, we're back now, but we have a decision to make. Do we want to lead or be led? One of the great challenges that got us to the lost decade that created the mess we had is we were too successful. We had a lot of great things going for a lot of years, so what did we do? We started getting complacent. We started getting content. We started believing we were entitled to certain things. And we thought we could spend our time fighting with one another instead of solving problems. That's how we had the lost decade, folks. So now that we're back, shouldn't one of the greatest lessons we learn is not to do it again? And so the question is, when you have a situation and you're doing well again, do you just keep on doing the same old thing? Which means you sort of return to the norm. You sort of return back to average. We're not average, folks. We don't want to be average. The question is how do you double down? How do you go even faster? How do you accelerate things to lead even more? And that's the challenge that we face as a state. I can tell you how I vote. I want to lead. And I want to make sure there's a great foundation to lead for the future. And that's what I was going to cover with you today. Because it's not just me. We need to stand as Michiganders on these principles, on these points, and get the job done. Because it's not just about us. It's about, for children not even born yet, for generations to come. That's the opportunity we have in front of us. So what's my list? 5 things. First of all, we need to recognize the world's changing and we have to lead where the economy of the future is going, not the economy of the past. The good part is we are the world's leader in mobility, which is the convergence of the IT industry and the automotive industry. It's these new power systems, it's advanced materials. The auto industry is changing. You keep on hearing about Silicon Valley being the lead. Well, first of all, we are the world's leader. We are ahead of them. But secondly, I can tell you it should not be a versus. It's about partnership. Our goal should not be to beat someone else. Our goal should be to be the best partner in the world because that's how you solidify long-term leadership. The best place to attract companies, from my view, in the country today is Silicon Valley and New York City. They're interested in coming to Michigan. When did you think you'd hear that? It's true. But we got to follow through. So we need to lead the economic revolution that's coming. There are going to be whole new categories of jobs that don't even exist today being created. Things like mobility technicians. There are also going to be huge challenges, though, about jobs that could disappear. And we need to be leading in terms of being responsible about helping those people, too, before that crisis arrives. And historically, that's not something we do well in this country. Too often, we wait for a crisis rather than using common sense. So as part of this economic revolution, we need to lead the common sense revolution. So let's lead on the economy. The most important thing to go with that is the question of talent. We just came from a great event at RCO Engineering. We talked about the Marshall Plan. The Marshall Plan is the capstone catalyst to make sure we're leading the talent revolution. We got to get it done. And I've got some wonderful partners here in the legislature and former partners. You guys need to speak up. I need each and one of you to talk to your legislators to say, let's get this thing passed. Because what is it all about? Think about this. We have an education system, and this is not an indictment of the people in the system, but we have a system a couple hundred years old. We have a silo of K-12. We have a silo of higher ed, and we have a silo of employers. Employers are part of this issue. We need to break down those silos. We need to create a much more seamless system where it's about getting competency-based learning, about getting an education that you're going to learn through your entire lifetime. The normal focus is on young people. But let me tell you this, anyone that's graduated from college in recent years, most likely in their lifetime are going to go through significant retraining at least twice, if not more, to stay relevant in their field or to be trained for a new field. And think about our world today. Where in our country do you go for lifelong learning? There's a few organizations that do it. Our community colleges have been great partners in trying to do a lot of this, but we have nowhere the capacity, the ability to do this in our nation today that we're going to need to do. We can lead. Let's make sure that happens. And I'll give you an easy illustration. I am a proud nerd. It's great. I'm converting Mark over time. But back in my day, I took computer programming. You guess what language I learned? I'm a dinosaur. A few people will remember this. COBOL. And the other nerds back in those days learned Fortran. So you learned COBOL or Fortran. You were one of those two. But let me put it this way. You couldn't do that today. You would have had to learn C++. You would have to learn Python. You would have had to learn new languages to stay up to be in that profession today. That's the kind of environment we need to create. And one of the greatest tools we have is you should be really proud of FIRST. To give you an idea how well we're doing in FIRST, you know why the World Championship came here? Because Michigan is first and first. I made it a priority coming as governor. I went to one of these competitions. I said it's a rock concert for nerds. I was sold. We got support from the legislature. We only devote a couple $1 million a year to help seed teams and support them, but to give you an idea of scale, we've gone from about 200 high school teams to over 500. We have more FIRST robotics teams than New York and California combined. These kids, if you ever want to see fire up faith in the future, go talk to one of these teams. It's incredible. And it's not just about STEM, not just about technology. They're learning people skills, teamwork skills, collaboration skills, presentation skills. Grow it. We should have one of these programs in every school in our state at every level. That's what I would challenge Macomb to aspire to go get that done. So talent is the second thing. The third one is infrastructure. Our country has done a terrible job about investing in our infrastructure, whether it be roads, whether it's water or sewer or other infrastructure. We've neglected it. We've ignored it. We see potholes, but it's a lot worse than that, folks, and we need to invest more, and we have been. It took me 4 years, but I'm proud. We finally got something done after 20 years of nothing happening. So we got $1.2 billion more coming in. It's growing. It'll be going a couple more years to get to that top number. But to give you an idea, just for Macomb, from 2015 to 2017, there's been a 31% increase in funding from the state to help with roads. We're doing a bunch more, but I'll give you a benchmark. The federal government number is down $275 million from the time I became governor. While we're going up, that number's shrinking. That doesn't help matters. And the other one is we've been using general fund money. We've put almost $1.5 billion from the general fund to help with transportation, where in the prior decade, you know how much it was? It was $3 million. But we need to do more. We haven't done enough. You got a great drain commissioner. Candace, I appreciate your work looking at infrastructure. So one of the things, though, is not just about more money. It's about being smarter with the money we have, our resources. So one of the coolest things, and you got to be a nerd to get excited by this, but I did, it's called integrated asset management. How can you do smarter investments? Because think about that road or bridge in front of your place that you see. How many times have you seen it torn up? It gets torn up for road work. It gets torn up for water and sewer work. It gets torn up for utility work. It gets torn up for communications or broadband. Why don't we just tear it up once and do it all? It would save us a fortune. So I created a commission. I asked them to go find best practice in the nation to see how this could get done. They scoured the entire nation to find out who we could model. You know who we ended up with? London, England. We had to leave the country. No one's doing a best practice in this country. We are starting to do that now. We've done a pilot between southeastern Michigan with SEMCOG and West Michigan, the Grand Rapids area. They got 158 communities. They've mapped already, just in those 158 communities, over 20-some thousand miles of roads, over nearly 15,000 miles of water and sewer, 5,000 bridges, 4,000 culverts. Now it's all gathered together. You can do planning. You can think about it. And one reason I don't believe it ever gotten done is because it involves over 3,000 organizations across our state that are involved in infrastructure. It involves huge numbers, and people just said it's too daunting. Well, they're wrong. Let's get it done. That's good for our future. It's going to save us a lot of resources so we can be much more efficient and much smarter. That's number 3. Number 4. You know this one's got to be coming. I'm the token CPA governor. It's about fiscal responsibility. Too often you hear political people get up and talk about tax cuts or spending money. The right answer should be is, how are you fiscally responsible? How do you recognize the role of government is to create the environment for success, and we need to be smart stewards of your resources. You're entrusting us with a precious resource you worked hard to earn. We need to deliver it in a thoughtful fashion and make sure it's worth it in your view for the work we're doing, instead of just political platitudes on one side or the other. In Michigan, you should be proud. Before I became governor, in that lost decade, 2 of the 3 years before I took office, we had government shutdowns. They couldn't even get a budget done on time. In the last 7 years, we've gotten our budgets done structurally sound, at least 3 months ahead of time. We are the most responsible one for passing budgets for any state in this nation. And more importantly than just short-term results, our planning horizon is not about my term in office. It has not been about 4 years or 8 years. I've been looking out 50 years. Because shouldn't we think about the kids not born yet? Too often and too many times that happened to us, did we end up with debts that we had nothing to do with? That people took money and spent money or obligated us to things? Well, I can tell you in my tenure, we're actually doing the opposite. We're paying off our debts and prior people's debts so we can leave things for better for the future. And what's a great illustration? If you want a really cool job in the state of Michigan, you should run for governor in 2038. And why should you care? The reason I say 2038, in 2038, we put a payment plan in place for all our long-term retirement obligations for all state employees and for all school employees, for all schools, public schools in our state. Isn't that cool to think? How many jurisdictions do you know can tell you they even know what they owe, let alone do they have a payment plan, let alone to say they're actually making the required payments? And what I'll tell you is, this should be treated like a mortgage in a family. Before you start spending other money, the first check should be written every month is to make sure we're paying those obligations. And that's something I want you to really ask everyone running for office, are you going to make sure we're going to make our mortgage payment before you start talking anything else, either cuts or other spending? Because isn't that what you do in your family? And it will make a tremendous difference. In 2038, literally it will free up billions of dollars, several $1 billion, that then could go to tax reduction or new investments or infrastructure. We'll let the governor in 2038 work that out with the legislature. But isn't that the way we should do things? The last one. This is about what I perceive as the greatest threat to our country. Our greatest threat to our country is us. Again, we have important things that we need to worry about in North Korea, Iran, and the fine service of these wonderful people. But we are the greatest country in the world. How do you maintain status as the greatest country in the world if you can't get along with yourself? It's not sustainable long term. It's just like we had the lost decade in Michigan. If you spend your time arguing with yourself, with your neighbors, your other family members, your friends, how can you be the best? We need civility, folks. Look at the national situation. Look at too often in the political world, how people talk to one another. There's an old cliche in politics, I'm going to fight for you. I wasn't smart enough, I'm not a career politician, so I've always thought that was crazy. Think about that. I hope a red light goes off if someone stands up to say they're going to fight for you. Fighting had a role. It was on the beaches of Normandy, not the beaches of Lake Michigan or the beaches of Lake St. Clair. We need to solve problems together. And I'm proud in my time as governor, I believed in relentless positive action. I've not criticized other political people. My whole model has been, what's the problem, what's the solution, and be relentless in the pursuit of solutions. There's no value about picking a fight with someone. There's no value in calling someone else a name. We need greater civility. You wouldn't accept this if people behave like that in your family. You wouldn't accept this if people behave like this in your business. Why do we accept it in the political world? We got to get our act together. And I believe in Michigan we can be the role model for civility. Treating people right. Because that pendulum has to swing back. And again, get us on the path to doing even greater things. But as I said, if we do these 5 things together, as a family, as one big family of 10 million Michiganders, what an incredible future we have. And when I say that, it's not about us again. And it's not about just the next 2 or 3 years. It's for the next generations. Isn't that exciting? That's the aspiration I hope we all have about leaving the world a better place than we found it. Leaving an opportunity for someone that may not have opportunity today. How do we create opportunities for them to have a better life? And we have a lot of that we still need to work on in the state, in this nation. So it's with great pride, I believe in the last 7 years, we, not me, but we have put in a strong foundation. We've taken on how many 50-year-old problems, 20-year-old problems, 10-year-old problems. We may not have solved the whole thing, but have we put a much stronger foundation in? I believe the answer is yes. But now that that foundation is there, let's not get complacent. Let's not get content. Let's not feel entitled. Let's say, how do we take that foundation and build the best thing on top of it that's possible, with better, smarter people following on our footsteps? That should be our aspiration. And it shouldn't just be our aspiration. If I look around this room and this wonderful community and all the great things you've done, I know we can get it done. So let's just get the job done. Thank you so much.